everyone, and welcome. Really glad you're here. My name is Sarah Doro, and I'm the Associate Director of Intersections of Gender, or IG, as we call it. I'm also a sociologist at University of Alberta. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a Germanic American Canadian, and I'm really pleased to punch things open here today to get it going for our wonderful host and presenter. Intersections of Gender worked this past summer on drafting a land acknowledgement for IG that was specific to what we do and in relation to the kinds of aims that we have. And so we wanted today to start by situating ourselves wherever we are and grounding ourselves and recognizing the people and relations of the territories that we are on. And University of Alberta is primarily located on the territory of the nêhiyaw, the Niitsitapi, the Métis, Nakota, Dene, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Dene, if I didn't say that. These are lands that are now part of Treaties 6, 7, and 8. And I especially today want to think about the fact that James Smith Cree First Nation is also part of Treaty 6, and they are mourning and hurting. And so I want to think about and remember them today and recognize that what they are grappling with. As Stephanie just said in our conversation before we started, the count is still going and goes on. Also when it comes to residential schools. So one part of our IG land acknowledgement reads, quote, "We strive to create spaces that are actively engaged in listening, learning, reconciliation, and the building of good relations across generations, and that encourage Indigenous knowledges to flourish." We hope that today does some justice to opening up that kind of space. And to that end, a very warm welcome to Lana Whiskeyjack and Stephanie Harpe. We're honored that you're both here today. Lana, who will serve as event host, is a multidisciplinary treaty nêhiyaw scholartist, a term I love, scholartist, from Saddle Lake Cree Nation. And she's assistant professor in women's and gender studies in the Faculty of Arts at the University of Alberta. After Stephanie presents, Lana will also kick off discussion and open up for Q&A with all of you who are here today, and then you'll be able to participate through chat or the Q&A function. So Lana, over to you to welcome and introduce our wonderful guest, Stephanie Harpe.
I am so pleased to share this space and to have this powerful matriarch come and speak to all of us. She's from Fort McMurray in Treaty 8 territory in northern Alberta, our beautiful northern relatives. She's as I mentioned, a powerful matriarch who's been, who's a mama, a wife, a sister of many, including mine, a cookum, an advocate, and a rock and roll musician. Oh my goodness, just a multidisciplinary artist in so many ways. And I appreciate Stephanie being here to share her incredible stories and her voice with us as such a courageous warrior and doing this really important work for our future generations, our women, our gender diverse, and just our nations as a whole. Thank you for being here, Stephanie. Hi.
Atlantate Tansei, thank you so much. Mercy Cho, hi, my dear friend Lana and my new friend Rochelle. I just want to say thank you to U of A and to have me back again. It's been a while. That darn COVID kind of took us out of the game, but we're ready to rock and roll again. Things are getting busy, things are getting going. So we have movement and we have action to do, and much to learn from each other. So yes, from Wotelo Dene, Dokabi Nizu, Fort McMurray First Nation, I am the niece of the historical chief, Dorothy MacDonald, who took the oil companies and the government to court in the late 1970s and created Indigenous protective rights for every Indigenous community in all of this country in the late 70s. So I'm really honored to be mentioning her, as she is the wind at my back. And I'm also the daughter of a murdered mother, Ruby Ann McDonald, who was murdered here in Edmonton by an ex-stalking boyfriend in 1999. For she is my protector. She is my protector. She's with me as always, and it has been, you know, pushing me in this realm as well. So I'm very blessed. I am a survivor of every single horrific statistic that you can think of as an Indigenous person, including residential school here that happened to me and taken away at in Castle Downs. I was taken away there when I was about 10 years old, and I was never the same child again. So I had a lot of healing to do. So I've survived everything that you can think of. I'm also a murder attempt survivor. And so this is the reason why I started to speak and share my story, was through all the death that I've seen and all the survival I've had to incur in my life. I had tools. I had ground survival skills. And many of the people that I used to know, many of them are not here anymore. Many of them are not here anymore. So through all of that, I had ways of survival. I had ways of healing. And that's been 20 years now for me that I've changed my whole life and been on this path. You know, you're on your path when the universe and spirit world sends everything your way. It got very big, very, very fast. So I also reached the world with my voice, and I do keynotes for United Nations, although there's an unhealthy balance there as well. It's very, very hard to trust, especially with government, the very same thing. So we have to remember, and every Indigenous person in the world has to be under oppression, has to survive systematic racism and strategic genocide. And every Indigenous person in the world has to survive this. And I've talked to many of them at the World Indigenous Games when I was asked to write a song for the world. So I wrote a song called The Warrior's Call. I talked to their interpreters, and the same thing that is happening to us here is happening to them in their countries as well. So it's really important that you when you want to find truth, you go to the most oppressed of your country. That's where you find truth. Okay, so right now we are not we still don't have our human rights. Dr. Cindy Blackstock had to fight for the rights of Indigenous children, while Trudeau wears an orange shirt. Every child matters. While he's fighting her in court, while the government is following her, taking pictures of her, recording her, doing these things, and she still had to fight and fight and fight. So it's really important that we understand, from the bottom to the top of government, every Indigenous job title is not employed by an Indigenous person. That is the strategic. That is the strategic plan. That is the defenseman on the line, making sure we don't get a touchdown. Okay. And when we talk about the legal system, we don't say justice, because Indigenous people do not get justice. It's a unicorn. You know, we've never seen it. There's only been a handful of successful stories that I know of, and we have a lot more work. We have a lot more work to do, especially when the police and the RCMP are not understanding of their birth. Their birth was to displace us, was to give us food rations, to control us, to make sure we stay on our reservations, and also to come and take our kids away to residential school. That was their birth. Indian Affairs was birthed by Sir John A. Macdonald. How does that help Indigenous Canadians? Okay, so it's really, really incredible, because people don't understand. Oh, it's Canada. You know, you guys don't know the truth. And the truth is, the government and the church and the military owes every single Indigenous person in this country healing for what they put us through. And it was a strategic plan. So with residential school and the treaty, the treaty and not being honored, and a racist Indian Act, how do they think we're going to have reconciliation when it's embedded in racism and not honoring and not keeping their word and just take? Okay, so it's really, really hard for us. We're still at the front lines. We're still fighting and all of this. So an example is, we had I work with the English family in Calgary. The example is, and you have to remember this, okay? So we have many stories like this across the country, but Joey English was an Indigenous young woman who was with a non-Indigenous man, and she had died in his presence. He panicked. He didn't know what to do, and he chopped up her body, threw it in a garbage garbages in Calgary. And when he was caught, he got 18 months. So I'm going to say that again. He got 18 months. What do you think the legal system and the media, when they release that to the public of Canada, who do you think is hunted? Who do you think is targeted? What they're telling them is you can chop us up and put us in garbage bags and get a slap on the wrist. Okay, I have a severe problem with that. I am outraged and I am worried for my people's safety and security. Okay, so I have a responsibility as a person who survived a lot of that to come out to give the tools and the empowerment and have my people take back their power and place. We can get to the true human being form that we were before colonization. It takes a lot of work. And our ceremony and our language that was once outlawed needs to be revived into a whole new level of awareness and consciousness to who we truly are. And that is our connection. We are connected to everything that is beautiful. And this is not how we rule. People up here, people in the middle, people up here, government, blah, 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 blah. That's not our way. Our way was this, as a circle, as a village, as a community, as one. Everyone had a role and everyone took care of each other. That's how it was before colonization. Now we can't get there because of the trauma of residential school and the genocide and the murder. There were hundreds of thousands of us. Now we're the lowest population. They're the highest rate of everything awful in this country. That is strategic. Okay, there was a war put upon our people. Okay, and we fight it every day. And this trauma bleeds into the everyday of an Indigenous person trying to survive. There's a difference. Many Canadians are living lives. All Indigenous people are still surviving, right? So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. So just so you know, I've done 2 provincial action plans for the National Action Plan. The Assembly of First Nations had come to me and I said, okay, well, you're under government wing. If you do not let me have full control of this provincial action plan and let me do it right, it's not going to get done properly and it's not going to help anybody. If I have full control, I will do this. So they gave me full control. I brought in Gary Thomason, I brought in my team. So we included Indigenous men and boys. There's 700 murdered and missing Indigenous men and boys in the province of Alberta. No one is talking about. No one is talking about these men and boys. And the most highly exploited Indigenous population of our people is our foster children, our people on the street surviving, and our gender diverse, beautiful community who are trying to live their truth. Let them live that truth. Let them be who they truly are. And let them be heard. We have to create these safe spaces for them. They don't have these safe spaces and often are forgotten. So we have to make sure that we know what our most exploited population is. And in this country of Alberta, it is Indigenous peoples and people of color. So we have a lot of work to do. I was on the National Human Trafficking Coalition meeting, and the Black sector, the Indigenous sector, the Hispanic sector, the Asian sector was empty. And this was the National Human Trafficking Coalition meeting of Canada with the organizations who say they're going to do their work. I was outraged because I was in a room with these people. Introduced myself to them, told them that me and Carrie were doing this work, we're on the ground with the people, blah, blah, blah. And they never had the decency to even phone us, to include us into this national collection for human trafficking. So I called out ACT Alberta, which never helped Indigenous people, and now they want to help. And now I'm going to be toured all over the province to the human trafficking hotspots in this province to make sure that we do it from the ground up and that we get your voices in all these targeted areas aware to the public. Human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in Canada, and as it's not at the forefront of anything. You do not see it anywhere. And now they want to come to the Indigenous people. But let me tell you something. I have been elevated into these new spaces only because the ground penetrating radar proved what happened to us. Did they start to believe us? Okay. So it's really unfortunate because we've been talking about this for decades and now only do they believe us. So we have to move fast and fierce with this truth. We have to move fast and fierce. So I've been elevated into these spaces where I never would be before. So with the provincial action plan, I included Indigenous and men and boys. I included industry. How dare people dot, it's Alberta. You have to include industry because they are contributing to a lot of the problems for Indigenous people and the safety and security. And now we have, and I told them that we also need to have youth. We have to have youth early intervention, age appropriate, what abuse is, what survival is, when we can't treat children like they're mindless when they're surviving it. And how dare we do that? The youngest Indigenous child to commit suicide in this country is 9 years old. How does a 9-year-old know what that is? Okay, so how dare us treat them like that when they're surviving it? So it's really important to early intervention, age appropriate disinformation. We're not here to scare people. We are here to empower you with tools so you can protect yourself, so you could recognize what is happening to you. A child does not know that they're being abused if you do not identify what abuse is. So really, really important that we do that, because that can prevent so much more. So with the provincial action plan that I created, it was presented in Ottawa, and now a lot of other provinces are sharing it because, wow. So I'm the first grassroots person in Canadian history to do a provincial action plan for the National Action Plan of Canada. So I'm really, really honored to be the person to have done this. Very, very honored, very honored. So the other thing too is before Red Dress Day, Enbridge reached out to me. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. Enbridge reached out to me. So Enbridge, if you look at the CBC article, it was sent to me years ago, where workers for Enbridge were caught with human trafficking in their camps. Okay, so when you're watching movies and television, you watch that movie Taken. That's real. That is real. All day long, is it real? And when in the movie, when he goes to that man camp and there's women handcuffed to beds, that's real. And even children, men, and two-spirited people. So our gender diverse community. So that's the truth. They do this on airplanes, they do this in boats, they do this in camps, they do this everywhere in this country, right? But if you fly off your homeland soil, we'll never find you again. So this is something that has to be prevented, has to be at the forefront of everything, because again, Indigenous people are the highest hunted population when it comes to human trafficking. Now I want you to go to aboriginalalert.ca. Aboriginalalert.ca is the national website, and you can look at it. It's not really at the forefront of big things. I'm trying to push it as much as I can. But if you go there, you will see the shocking amount of missing Indigenous peoples in the country of Canada. And that's not even everybody. That's not even everybody. So look at your province and then you tell me something. You tell me how that makes you feel. You tell me if you want to do something about this. So we have the National Action Plan coming out, but their first chess move is to have a white man as the MMEIW Secretariat. And we told them, MMEIW is important, but what about our men and boys? You have to include them. So we got them to change it to peoples. Thank you, Creator. Peoples. I like that better. Okay, how dare they leave out the men and boys when they go through everything that we go through, especially the Starlight Tours, where police and RCMP take them out to a field in the middle of winter to die and freeze to death. That's real. That's real. So, we're talking about this. Well, I worked for Fort McMurray First Nation. As soon as new leadership came in, I was hired. And they said, Stephanie, you're coming home to do the work. We're going to pay you. Help everybody. I've never had a chief say that to me before. So I want to thank and honor Chief Mel Grandchamp. It's nice to have a chief. So I also work for Samson Cree Nation on part-time on the side, and also because they have the smallest population of Indigenous community with the highest rate of murdered and missing in any Indigenous community in this region. So I am there. So racist remarks were made by one of the councillors in Fort McMurray. So from McMurray, I got the phone call from the mayor and all the chiefs of the region. I got a conference call and they said, Stephanie, we need you to come home. You need to learn and lead not learn, but lead the Murdered and Missing and Exploited Indigenous Peoples Initiative for the whole region, which I am. We just got the money. We're just getting things started. They are 3 steps behind everyone else up there. It's really sad to see. We got a lot of work to do. So during COVID, I created safety and wellness super clinics for my people to keep them well during COVID. I've been booked solid. Zoom zombie. But it was totally worth it because I would still get to be with the people because 2019 came. I went to 32 Indigenous communities that year. No, I think at the end of the year it was 34. The people would not stop calling. So I learned how to jump on Zoom very fast, and I learned these things really fast and got online and stayed online and still am online. So really important that we talk about this because MMEIP is what we changed the acronym to. Okay, so murdered or missing, because a murdered family or missing family, there's 2 totally different ways of healing and treating and suffering and all of that. So I came up with STAR therapy. So we have a beautiful STAR therapy for families, and it's been helping missing families and families waking up every day thinking the worst for their loved one, and they're not suffering like that anymore. I've been visited by spirit. I've been proud to say I've been visited by spirit here in my home, and I know what spirit looks like. It's a beautiful light. It is something beautiful. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't scared. I embraced it. So from that visit, I had a responsibility to share that our loved ones are light, that our loved ones are a spirit, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So when they're still not here with us on this earthly plane in their vessel, it's a beautiful thing. So that's been helping a lot of families, and I have a lot of families that I look after, murdered or missing, exploited Indigenous people's families. So murdered or missing, it's not and. It's 2 totally different things that need to be treated differently. Murdered or missing and exploited Indigenous peoples. Exploited. There's different types: child sexual exploitation, okay, human trafficking exploitation, the exploitation of men and boys when they're labor exploited. And this happens to many of our men and boys. Because they're Indigenous, they get the shit job. Because they are Indigenous, they put them in unsafe working conditions and don't pay them as well as either, right? So that's what it is, MMEIP. So we changed it and we have the hashtag and all of that. So us grassroots advocates, I was very adamant about it because, April has been talking about men and boys. Carrie Thomason has been talking about men and boys, Cam Alexis, myself, and Lana, and the gender diverse community. Like, this is really, really important to include them in everything. Please, we need to stop excluding them. I started the Indigenous Men and Boys Support Group of Edmonton, which is on Facebook. I had the honor of starting this when they had no place else to go 4 years ago. And from that spawned other companies and organizations to have support groups for Indigenous men and boys. But I was happy to start one myself, and we healed 60% of the men that participated. And I saw beautiful, beautiful things, just wonderful. Just gave them the space, gave them the food, gave them the love, gave them all of that, gave them their space, and then left. Us women left. We come back and we saw beautiful connection. And it's really well needed. So it's on Facebook. We have a lot of opportunity, inspiring stories, job opportunities, casting opportunities, and all of that for them on there. So the other thing too is all of a sudden when when Enbridge reached out, they asked me to train all of their North American staff. We want the truth. We need to be accountable, and what we're doing is wrong. So I got to have meetings with Houston and Minneapolis and Canada, and I trained all of their North American staff, and I changed a lot of those people. So that in turn will change internally. And now we got to reach down to the workers. We got to get the bosses, then we got to get the workers and say, we're not putting up with this anymore. You men in this world, we're in an overpopulated world where mental health is an issue, and men are left far behind in this issue. Okay, far behind. They're too proud. They're not supposed to cry. everything financially is on them. They're in these industry jobs where they're alone for hours and hours, sometimes in harsh conditions where they can get cancer, where their life is in danger constantly. So what does that do to a man? Headsupguys.org is a national website for men to privately deal with their depression, because then it gets critical. And if you leave it for too long, we have a lot of men that go home and murder their whole family. That's the truth. We have men that are thinking pornography, this is what women want, this is what sex is. It warps their mind. So MindGeek controls a lot of the Pornhub and the pornography exploited here in Canada. So we're trying to hold them accountable as much as we possibly can, because now they're affecting our youth. Okay, so so we have to really address that, because that is warping a lot of young people's minds. So the other thing too is that I wanted to talk to you guys about is, now I'm training police in RCMP. So first of all, when I come in, I tell them about their birth, and it's amazing how many of them don't know what they were birthed from. And this internally, I've seen the change all of a sudden happen in their face, and then their soul comes back to them. And every time you reach a realm of love and truth, all of a sudden our spirit comes back, and it comes back, and it comes stronger. Then all of a sudden, okay, I'm telling you, the look on people's faces when I give them the truth is priceless. But the most profitable thing about it is that they go out there and they change. They change for the better. So when you give people truth upon their own moral compass, will they be part of the solution, or continue to put their head in the sand in their ignorance and not want to do any kind of action? Everyone can do something. We all have gifts. We all have power. Anything is something, right? We're in an age where action is the word. We're talk. It's all about action now. So we have to be very, very careful with that. So the other thing too is I've had a struggle of balance with government, calling out government, and then government comes in, okay, Stephanie, we want to help you. We're going to give you some funding. I said, okay, but I can't. You want to give me some money to do something good. You cannot have me under your thumb. I need to be free. I need to know, do exactly what I need to do to heal my people with this money. So there was a lot of trust that I didn't have a lot of trust for the longest time. So now I did receive money from Minister Wilson and went into a program with the YWCA. And we did the first healing camp for Indigenous children who had murdered or missing parents. And it was just a dream come true. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. But it was a dream come true. And we were the first of our kind to do this. So we were really, really honored in doing that for these children. And it changed their lives. And I was really honored to have Lana and Cindy Paul and all these wonderful, beautiful women who just exude love. Just exude love. You got to have that energy. And that's the thing too, we have to be careful as Indigenous people going to work with other Indigenous people and organizations who say they're doing the work, and then they're not, and it's unhealthy and things like that. You have to be well to do wellness. Okay? You have to be well to do this work. I am a very powerful, loving person. No matter all the horrific things that have happened to me in my whole life, I still lead in love. That's the difference. That's the difference. Okay. So it took a lot to get here, but now it's really important to keep moving in this work and keep moving with this truth. So the other thing too is, you know, we've been doing all this stuff, but right now we're talking about our kids. We're in the millennial scoop. Right now, we have more kids in care ever at the height of residential school history, and it's profitable. And you have to understand that every time our kids are taken away, it's money. Every time we go to jail, it's money. Every time we go to the hospital to try to get help, there's racism. Like, these kinds of things are affecting us every single day. So it's affecting our health, our mental health. It's affecting our safety and security. This is jeopardizing our very existence in life. So the greatest revolution an Indigenous person can do, love yourself. Love yourself. Because once you love yourself, You're empowered enough to work on it. We have so many people that don't love themselves, and that is not their fault. What happened to us is not our fault. We are owed healing. Now, I don't agree with these payouts. First, you should give us ceremony, language, identity, healthy elders, psychology and counseling, get us fully healed. Then you give us the payouts. Then you see what's going to happen with Indigenous people. Okay? You don't do it that way. I've talked to many people in government. You do not do it that way. You do not give a traumatized Indigenous person money like that so that you just kill them faster. Okay? So the thing is, you have to remember, our suffering is profitable to this country. Period. It's very easy to talk about this and break it down for you. That is the truth. There are no programs to keep families together. There are no programs in jails to heal Indigenous people. The highest population of Indigenous incarceration is women. Right now, the roles are changing because they're merely trying to survive. You're throwing them in jail for survival. Right? So we have so much more work to do. So much more work to do. Am I almost at 20 minutes? Am I? Okay, give me a few more minutes. Okay, here. This is the thing. So I'm working with the Lana Whiskeyjack Fund as their national Indigenous liaison. I will be in 6,000 schools in this country. So the other thing too is ACT Alberta. We're doing the tour. We're going to do that. And also, leading the Murdered and Missing initiative for all of Wood Buffalo, for McMurray. That is huge because I'm going to change a part of this province, going to change the region and let them know from the ground up, this is how you have to do the work. Now, unity. Every time I come out to train people, I'm training doctors and nurses here next month in Edmonton. As soon as I train them, it's unified front. There's only a few that are left behind because they don't want it, but the unified front is happening. So every time I go out and train people, it is making it different and making it safer for all of us. It's making it safer for all of us, reaching people's hearts and their minds and connecting that. So we all always have to remember, we all have a raging fire within us. Just share your warmth and watch everything beautiful in the world thrive. Masi Cho, hi. Thank you all.
Hi, tapwe, me hacen, just makes me wanna segue you. Oh my goodness, so much blessings through good medicine, through your words, through that truth, and the importance of the courage you have to lead. And I just think of, our prophecy that we've now shifted in the time of the woman to rebalance all of the oppression, or as even you were saying, like how not loving ourselves profits the very systems that oppress, that murder, that contribute to the traumas to our own selves, to our families, to our kinships, our wakotawin. And so I think about the work that you're doing with Carrie and, oh my goodness, so many other incredible matriarchs who are leading this. And I think, I always keep you, precious woman, Esquewak, in my prayers, because I also know when you're leading, when you're the front of the line, you're also the first to get impacted by lateral violence. You're the first to be attacked by, like Cindy, being who is surveillance by this government as a threat to the nation. Mm-hmm. And so the importance that, of how loving ourselves is the best gift not only we can give to ourselves and to our families, but also to our communities, our nations, to resist the systemic genocide, as you spoke about so powerfully. And I think about, I really appreciate all that work you are doing and being inclusive of all of our relatives, of all of our, our wakotawin, and how that also includes the land, our waters, all of those relatives as well, not just the men, women, and our Siniwak, right? All of our peoples and our children. And and how you are the change you want to see. You do that through your words, your actions, and you talk a lot about iskoteo, the fire within us, and how you are that you speak and you work with that warmth, that passion for our peoples. And I think you just need to win so many awards for your music, but to be supported. And I'm so glad you're leading this work, because it really needs those matriarchs like you to move us to change, to create that change, which means that systemic change, so that we're no longer criminalized for being Indigenous women, Indigenous men, Indigenous Two-Spirit, that we are allowed to lead and steward this land, but also to be, again, those home fires for our family. So, and just kind of starting out a question, I guess, is how can others, our other treaty relatives, how can they support the work you're doing? How can they support this initiative of making these systemic changes?
I need you to have me come in and just give truth to all your workers and decolonize as much as your workspace as possible. I don't do PowerPoints. Everyone's always asking me, do you have PowerPoints? Do you have this? Like, no, that's not our way. We're storytellers. We want to talk to you. We want to engage. We want to connect. We want to look in the eye, and from survivor to survivor, the connection is instant. So that's really important. And then remember, every day is Orange Shirt Day. Every day is Red Dress Day, okay? And every day is Blue Jean Jacket Day. So I'm going to show this to you. This is a blue jean jacket pin that we created for the 700 murdered and missing Indigenous men and boys in this province of Alberta. So we created an identity for them because they didn't have one. They didn't have a pin. They didn't have a color. How dare us do that to them? How dare us? So this is really, really important. So we got the blue jean jacket pin. You can order these from Elder Lydia Quinney. She works at Samson Cree Nation and Wellness with me. So we can get those from her. Really important. And then we have this. This is the unity pin of our people. So I had this constructed by Dee Dee Granja and Fort McMurray First Nation. So the blue jean jacket's eminent to make sure the men and boys that you matter, and the red dress for our women and girls, then the gender diverse, and the orange moccasins for our kids in the ground. She even put little fringes here on the moccasins. Look at that, and then no one left behind. No one left behind. So this is the unity pin of our people. We will be getting that out here really soon. And one thing I wanted to just share with you is this is a red dress all the way from Great Britain, from across the planet, mailed to me. And I have one with my mom's name engraved in it in wood. And so the world is watching, and it's really important. And we are leading in love, and they're listening. So yeah. And also, go and do rallies and marches and have conversations. Come and ask us questions. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come out to some of our events, invite us to your tables, have us people who are survivors and people with truth, and have them come and teach you the truth. Make sure they're healthy. Make sure they're healthy. Ask community, ask people around before you hire somebody as well, before you bring them in, just to make sure. Make sure that you write your MLAs and the government and tell them that you want changes to policies and procedures that keep us oppressed, and the systematic racism you want addressed, and you want justice for all people. Okay, we have to demand, we have to fight, and you all have a voice, the power of the pen and the power of the walk. Be visible, be out there, and engage.
Thank you. We do have a question from Anna McKinnon on, thank you for sharing your story and mission with us. What an amazing force. As a psychologist, your message about self-love is so important to promote. How can allies in the health professions help with healing and empowerment?
So the thing is, though, as long as you have Indigenous truth and training, you need to know that history is embedded and webbed and weaved into every structure, social structure that we have to navigate through at every single day. It's here. You need truth first. You need to know what happened to our people in order to help our people. If you do not have that information, you can't help us. When I went for counseling, I had to ask. There were so many counselors and psychologists that didn't know what happened to my people, so they can't help me. I'm an Indigenous person coming to talk to you about something, layers with layers and layers of trauma on top of that to talk about this one thing. And you have to understand that. That's really, really important. And also, you know, wear an orange shirt pin, wear a red dress pin, wear a blue jean jacket pin, wear a gender diverse pin. You know, do that. Or get a unity pin from DD Grand Jam, Beads by Deeds, a whole unity thing. It shows that you care. And also proper protocol, and as always, give an Indigenous person tobacco. You want proper protocol. Our proper protocol is tobacco, sage, and a blanket. You know, that's the ultimate beautiful giving gift. So we want you to present us tobacco, ask us questions, have us involved, and just make sure that you know, you get your truth and training from the right Indigenous people. But also the thing is, create spaces for us, have events, help us get funding. It seems to be really difficult for us to be properly supported when it comes to dollars. It's straight across the board, across this whole country. We don't get the same as everybody else. So help us create those spaces and opportunities. And we need concerts. Music helps soothe the savage beast. Music connects people. Music does amazing things. My friend, the Honorable Murray Sinclair, said to me, Stephanie, she says, the other thing other than your advocacy, girl, you're doing it. You're doing it. You're putting the messages in your music. He says, artists can get away with so much truth more than anybody else. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. So have our artistry come out to be more embraced. Have us more visual and have us more out there, and in your workspaces, right? That's really important, is to reach everybody that you're working with every single day, right? And then do what you can for public awareness. Okay, do what you can for public awareness, and decolonize as much as you can for us. But the biggest thing is, you got to tell us that we're loved and that we're worth the work. We're worth the work, and that you'll stand beside us and correct people when they're doing these wrong things. Correct them for us. We need the help there.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful sister of my soul. And thank you for sharing your truth. And I'd like to invite Sarah to close us. No? Oh no.
I don't want it to close, but here we are, the appointed hour, darn it. So this is, yeah, thank you. It's been incredible. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie and Lana, and the two of you together. The dynamism is wonderful. And Stephanie,
thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you.
I think you wanted to put something in the chat, maybe a healing sort of connection information.
Yes.
In the
yes,
chat.
So I'm going to put in the chat the Hope for Wellness hotline for Indigenous people. So I'm going to put that for you guys in the chat, just in case you guys need any kind of assistance. If you're triggered with any of this and you're Indigenous, please call this number 1-800-55-242 3310. So that's the Hope for Wellness hotline, and I'll put it in the chat. And there we go.
Thank you very much. That's great. That's really crucial. And I think Rachel also put into the chat the link that you mentioned earlier. As well. So it's in there somewhere. You can, in this wonderful chat that's full of thank yous all throughout. I also want to, just before we go, invite people to come to our next event on September 27th at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And Professor Floretta Bunzayer from University of Cape Town, and she is a decolonial feminist psychologist who will be bringing to us exploration of decolonial and intersectional approaches to gender and sexual violence from her perspective and as working in South Africa. So an important follow-up, I think, to this to help to think about the relations of these questions across all kinds of contexts. And so if you're not on the IG mailing list and you want to learn more about what we're doing, I think Rachel's going to put into the chat sort of how to get in touch with us to find out about all the things that are happening and all the different kinds of events and networks we're trying to build and support. So on that note, I will say another thank you to all of you, to everyone who was here today, to Lana and to Stephanie, and to all the good things that people are aiming to do and working on with incredible action and heart. Thank you very much.
Lisa, I want to grab the names of the elders who are creating those pins for me, Stephanie. Hopefully.
Oh yeah. So Lydia Quinney.
Lydia Quinney.
Yeah, and she's on my Facebook friends list.
Okay.
And she's the one that is making that. And Beads by Deeds, and Beads is with 3 E's. And Dee Dee Granjam, Fort McMurray First Nations, she's the one doing the Unity pin. She just released the sweaters with the Unity pin on them. So I'll send you a picture of that and a link to her page.
Awesome. Yes.
Perfect. All right. All the best. Have a good rest of the day and a good weekend.
Thank you, Sarah.
Take good care of yourselves, everyone.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Bye, Rachel.
Oh, and yeah, thank you, Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
All of this happened.
and Lana, I'll see you Sunday.
Yes, see you Sunday.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.